Hi everyone, my name is Ama Asare. I currently work with Thoughtworks as a SME on the platform engineering team. I've been at Thoughtworks for 10 years, and in that time, I've played a variety of different developer roles. Also, in that time, I've helped build a number of internal developer platforms for our clients. Frequently, I have heard clients ask, how do I get started with building an internal developer platform? How do I know I'm on the right path? They want to get things done right, but are just unsure of the best approach to take to start. And so for today's talk, I want to address these questions from the perspective of engineering culture. Where to start? By the end of this talk, you will leave with three key insights on engineering culture to plan for when beginning your platform journey. And if you're already on the journey, you'll have three areas to watch out for to avoid costly mistakes. And so this talk is for people starting on building the engineering platform or just leaders who want to know what to prioritize when building their platform. Culture has often been likened to an iceberg. What you see is just a tiny manifestation of what actually exists. And so typically what you'd see are behaviors, and these behaviors are driven by what's below the surface, the things that are not always tangible or clearly spelled out. And so those are things like values, beliefs, and assumptions. So, as an example, in an engineering organization, a typical culture we would see is the practice of postmortems, where after an incident has occurred in production, teams would hold a learning session to understand the root cause of the incident, identify fixes, and plan for next steps. And the belief I've identified that drives this practice of postmortems is the belief in learning from mistakes. And companies that practice postmortems value systemic solutions over laying individual blame. Another example of engineering culture is, or another example of behavior I've seen in an engineering organization is one where fixes and improvements for internally created tools are constantly deprioritized. And in an organization where I've seen this type of behavior, a value that drives this behavior is the value that um, creating software for external customers is more important than supporting internal users. So, what does culture have to do with platform engineering? I mentioned earlier that I work with Thoughtworks. Thoughtworks is a software consulting company that builds custom software for our clients. And so sometimes we're called to help build software from the start of an initiative. Sometimes it's after a company has attempted to build something and they want our help to get things right the next time. So, unfortunately, I've seen a number of situations where all the best intentioned, a platform initiative has not been as successful as expected and has drowned in a myriad of challenges to adoption. And you know what I've observed? That an often overlooked component when planning for platform initiatives is engineering culture. You don't plan for it, you plan for all the tools and technology. Um, but actually, in examining why previous platform initiatives have failed, what I saw is that culture plays a big part in the ultimate success of the program. And so for this talk, I will highlight some of the behaviors I've seen that slow down a platform initiative's adoption or success. I'm going to talk about the underlying culture I've observed that drives these behaviors. And I'm going to propose cultural shifts to adopt to drive different behaviors that will promote adoption and developer satisfaction with your new internal engineering platform. Take this journey with me. Imagine that you're building an internal engineering platform, and the intention of this platform is to abstract certain tasks away from application developers so they can focus on building more value differentiating features. This is a noble intention, and it's a common reason why people build internal engineering platforms. However, imagine that at this place where you want to build a platform, the culture is one that values feature completion over iterative workflows, regardless of what else is going on in the world around. In such a place, the behavior you see is that effort is put into completing that feature checklist to earn leadership approval and keep project funds flowing. Now, there are initiatives where this practice works very well and is actually needed. However, it does not work for all software initiatives. For example, for platform initiatives where it's clear that user needs for the platform is evolving, or that things that were planned are not exactly what they seem and might need to change, that checklist is still in place and has to be adhered to. So, what you get as a result is an engineering platform that is feature complete, but is difficult to use because it doesn't always align with the way that users have evolved or would like to use the platform. Sometimes you end up with a platform that has many features built in, but then users actually don't use them, um, which is not the best use of the platform investment. So, if this is your engineering organization currently, I'd like to propose a shift, a focus from thinking of your platform as a project that needs to be feature complete and instead as a product that delivers complete experiences to your users. So, an example of an experience that an internal engineering platform supports is continuous integration for applications. When you start to consider the platform as a service where people, the users of the platform, and their experiences are supported instead of a service where specific features exist, you start to incorporate practices like releasing platform features incrementally instead of waiting till the end to release the platform software. You start to involve users more and more in making sure that their experience you're providing is actually aligned with their needs and getting their feedback before you release your changes to them. This results in greater adoption of your platform and alignment of the platform to user needs, promoting user satisfaction. So here, the cultural shift I'm recommending falls really under thinking of your platform as a product, and where under that I'm saying to aim for experience completion, taking one experience for a user and completely developing it out and releasing it to them, and then doing that over and over again, versus trying to complete all the features that you plan for the platform before releasing the platform to users. The second observation I'd like to highlight is one on the other end of the spectrum of the previous observation, where the engineering organization values failing fast and learning. We've heard that a lot, and it's not a bad thing. The consideration here that contributes to low adoption of your internal engineering platform is at which point the organization stops to learn or fail. How do they define what that mark is? What done is? We once saw an organization that stopped at Hello World. They built a platform that worked for the simplest Hello World application, an application that did not have a fraction of the complexity of common applications in their organization. And in case you don't know what a Hello World application is, it's a simple application that outputs the phrase Hello World. And it is typically the first example application you use to learn how to implement new software or learn new programming languages. And so for this organization, what happened when teams started to move on to the new platform was an instant whole host of migration issues at every step of their way to build and release their application on the new platform, because the platform was only tested out with a Hello World application. So in such a culture or such an organization, I would recommend adopting a culture where the definition of done for what the platform releases is not an exercise done in isolation, but is done between the platform team and users. What you get as a result is platform use cases and examples that are more aligned with real team needs. And when that happens, you get higher developer satisfaction because they're able to more easily use the engineering platform. So, the cultural shift here I'm recommending also falls under thinking of the platform as a product where you validate the definition of done with your customer. And then if the organization still wants to practice failing fast and learning, the cost of learning is not as expensive because the platform is closer to the user needs than a Hello World application, for example. I'm sure you've met at one point or another this really awesome engineer that has deep knowledge about the software their organization creates. And they're such a great resource to go to when you need information about a system or you're stuck with a software issue. You tried everything and you really don't know what to do next. They're the person to talk to help unblock you. Sometimes a platform team can become that, the people you go to when you need help onboarding to the platform, or you need help with platform feature discovery, or trying to work through an error generated from the platform. Now, I believe the platform team should be able to and should support the users that use the software it creates. Where this culture of reliance on knowledgeable engineers becomes a problem is when more and more time is taken away from working on building new features, and that time is spent providing support. Eventually, the platform team becomes a support team instead of an engineering team that writes code and also supports its users. Then the team really struggles to scale because as more and more engineers onboard to the platform team becomes inundated with all the expectations they have to meet, responding to requests for help from a large number of users, and still having to meet their software development targets. This could lead to burnout for the platform team engineers, could lead to frustration for users that are using the platform because they're not able to get the help they need to get their work done, and overall, a loss in productivity for all. Now, when the culture around is not explicit about building systems where engineers are able to help themselves, what you end up with is a system that is designed for human intervention and a cycle of support creep that is hard to get out of. My proposal here is to adopt a culture that prioritizes engineers helping themselves. Documentation is good, self service is better. Self service through interfaces that engineers are familiar with, like APIs or CLIs, are even better. The work for this self service for engineers should be done from the start because, like I mentioned, once you get into that support creep cycle, it's really hard to get out of. And when I talk about self service, an example of an engineering platform that provides self service through engineer centered interfaces is like AWS from Amazon, where you can perform a lot of engineering tasks without having to talk to the people that actually built those systems. My colleague Punit has a really great talk in this conference on invisible platform engineering that digs deeper into this topic. I recommend you check it out. And just to recap, the recommendation here I'm making is to design your platform from the ground up with self-service as a must, and really thinking about the platform team as one that is invisible. In an invisible platform team, users are able to use the platform without even knowing who was in the platform team. The final observation I'd like to talk about is a culture where there is low trust in engineers to self manage adherence to important organizational requirements, especially around security, governance, and compliance. A behavior you see at such places is one where many manual approval gates are put in place through people like managers or an external validation team, and their use of tickets or meetings to validate software meets requirements or similar activities. An impact of this culture is that migration onto the engineering platform and going live with your software on this platform is incredibly difficult when there is only so much progress you can make in a day as a developer because you constantly have to wait for approval for many routine, simple tasks. Unfortunately, for the scope of this talk, I cannot help you with trust in your organization. However, what I can do is recommend an alternate path. I propose considering coding the requirements that you have as much as possible, the requirements around security, governance, compliance, into your platform, especially the not so complex routine scenarios. So automate these checks as much as possible and leave the more ambiguous complex scenarios for humans to evaluate. Especially if you design for self-service, like I talked about in my previous point, it's easy to add on automation for checks on important security requirements. And so with self-service, engineers are able to help themselves and the system is automatically able to make sure that they are in compliance with the rules that you have. So, the cultural shift I'm recommending that you adopt here is the use of code, not humans or tickets, as gates to ensure adherence to compliance, security, and governance requirements for your organization. In summary, these are the three cultural shifts I'm recommending that you consider adopting when beginning your platform journey in order to increase chances of success. Number one, consider the platform as a product, not a project. Number two, consider the platform team as invisible, where you're able to use the features of the platform without knowing the people that work on the team. And number three, considering the use of code, not humans or tickets, as gates to ensure adherence to security, governance, and compliance requirements. Thank you.